Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Menino and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today. And zooming from the beautiful island of, Lyle, where are you from? Where are you at right now?
I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Port St. Lucie, Florida. Beautiful place. We have Lyle Fried, is it? Fried. Lyle Fried. He's I can't even explain this, strategic partner at Beach House Recovery.
Director of Strategic Partnerships at Beach House.
Oh my gosh.
Beach House Center for Recovery. It's a long one.
I tried. Let's put it that way. I tried. So Tell everybody what you do and how you got to where you're at today.
What I do is I help develop the partnerships between various entities to help us find more people to help at Beach House Center for Recovery. So we have, I've helped develop some programming. We have a Veterans and First Responders program, which is called Freedom First. And I've been working with veterans and first responders for 25 years in this space of dealing with trauma work. And as a part of that, I'm a ICISF approved instructor, which means nothing to most of you. To first responders, that'll mean something. We teach what they call critical incident stress management, and I'm on a team that does that for 4-county area. So we help first responders when they experience critical incidents, which could be death, dismemberment, officer-involved shooting, children that are impacted, anything that might leave trauma impact. We do debriefings and diffusings to help them mitigate the long-term effects of that trauma. And then at the Freedom First program, those that do have those long-term effects, we're able to treat that trauma and any related mental health or the anxieties that come with it, the substance use. Alcohol is often a self-medication technique for a lot of first responders. So a lot of things that we can work with there. And then the rest of it is connecting up the different people in different areas to be able to find people we can help. And so through that, we partner with unions, we partner with other treatment centers, business networking. And so that's my role, is to help us find the people that need the kind of work we do.
Nice. Awesome. So what skills or habits that doesn't get enough credit in your contribution to your success?
I would say in this realm, patience is one of your biggest factors. You're dealing with people who are not in a great state. I have a clinical background, so for me, it's a little easier than probably others. But you're dealing with a demographic that's often not going to be entirely rational, or the whole point is they need mental health care, and so being able to understand that and having the patience to do it, and then of course the expectations, and again, just the fluidity that's necessary to deal with all the different scenarios in person. So when I'm dealing with someone who's coming into our faith-based program, it's a different conversation than someone coming in who's not looking for that, or the veteran versus or those combos, somebody who may be indigent or a homeless veteran versus one that's a businessman that's doing well. Is this someone that's going to be in an executive program or in an indigent program, and having to be able to help them see the differences and find the place to land. And then with the business networking side of it, the business development side of that is really just relational. I'm not a very good salesman, but I do well in relationships.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really good. No, that's know yourself. My famous words are know your opponent as you know yourself. You need not fear 1,000 battles. What is one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in your career, and how'd you do it?
Oh, wow. Well, I think part of it was my expectation. So I got into this career legitimately by going through a center myself. I entered recovery in the 90s, and I'm a trauma survivor myself. So, I had that heart for it, and I had a previous business. I used to run a graphic design and marketing company and did a lot of work in that realm, and realized that I wanted to switch gears. So reinventing myself, 25, 30 years ago, and going back to school as not a young person, And
Not a young person. I love that description. Yeah, that's a great description. As not a young person.
yeah. And so, getting back into that mindset of going, I had a degree in fine arts and now I want to, I'm in psychology. I went to seminary. And, it's two entirely different worlds. And getting back into that while working full time and supporting a family, that was a challenge. And then being willing to reset the clock financially as well, being able to step back and stop making the money I was making to build towards something that I felt was more meaningful that would eventually get close to the kind of money I was making, but probably never quite the level.
Gotcha.
I take that back. I ran my own facility for a while. I made good money. I've made and given away or lost more than I care to admit. So
Welcome to the real world.
yeah.
Talking about the field you're in, staying on top of any field is tough. What is something exciting you see in the horizon in your industry, and how are you getting ready for it?
Well, I've been having these conversations at the government level. I worked with more than one administration at the White House trying to craft what we do and worked with many business and city and civic leaders trying to get an understanding, working with the first responder departments to see the need, command staff to understand that it's not pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can actually, that it's okay to talk about mental health. That's a trend that I see now. 20 years ago when I was doing this, nobody talked about mental health. I was doing a talk, I'm a Rotarian as well, and I was speaking to a large group of Rotarians. I said, anybody in the room ever personally experienced or have someone close to them that experienced a mental health concern? And I purposely worded it vaguely like that. And one person out of several hundred raised their hand. And I said, you have one honest person and the rest of you are liars.
Yeah, one honest person.
Because everybody has some mental health concerns through their life. You have moments of anxiety or depression. That's part of the human experience. And so now when I go into rooms and I ask that question, almost everybody raises their hand. So the
Good.
pivot
A lot less liars is what you're saying.
well, the pivot to the willingness to talk about it, the destigmatization, it's a double-edged sword as we talk about removing the stigma from certain things, that also removes some of the impetus to get well for some. Right. For
Yeah.
some people, it's like, substance use is normal. Alcoholism isn't that unusual. A lot of people are alcoholics, so no need to really change. Right. So there's this double-edged sword to all of that. And with the, anxiety is normal. Well, it is, but it doesn't mean that you need to continue to suffer when you could get it treated, and so understanding, that A, we can talk about it, and B, we can resolve it. I think that public image issue is probably the greatest turn I've seen in our industry, and it's really happened a lot. COVID was a big push for that because a lot of people had to sit with themselves, and not do the things they normally did to deflect or avoid. I often say, as a pastor, we teach Greek language, and so anytime you put an A in front of a word, it means the opposite. So Gnosticism is knowledge. Agnostic means I don't know. Well, the same thing is true with amusement. To muse is to think. Amuse is to avoid thinking. So we go to our entertainment and our amusement to avoid sitting in the things that we want to escape. Playing a game on your phone is a great escape, and that's good in small doses.
Moderation.
Yes,
in
exactly.
moderation.
But when you
I have a game I play in moderation.
Yeah, and when you find yourself going to it too often, all you're doing is avoiding the issue, and nothing ever changes. And so you got to find that balance.
Agreed wholeheartedly. When you think back in any moments in your life, and what is one of the things that really changed your career? What's a game changer for you?
A few. One is I've worked for some really horrible people, so I learned what not to do. So seeing problems with other way things were done, it motivated me to find better ways to do things, rather than just say this is messed up. I said, okay. In fact, that's how I entered my whole my background in scientific research is in genetics and molecular neurobiology. And the reason I went there is because when I was in treatment in the 90s, this doctor from Holland came over and he told me, here's what's wrong with your brain. And I went, wow, that makes perfect sense. Well, so what's the solution? He said, what? I said, well, you've told me the problem. How do I fix it? He goes, oh, that's just the way it is. I refused to accept that. So I began looking for research on the topic, and I found some people. Dr. Kenneth Bloom is a friend of mine that has done expansive research in that area, and I've done research with him in that area. And I began to read these things and learn there are actually things we can do. So if you're genetically predisposed and you have what they call hypodopaminergia, low dopamine production and reception, there's actually a solution. There are ways to fix it holistically. It doesn't require necessarily, though sometimes it may, medications, but there are things you can do in your life, the way you eat, exercise, etc., to help your brain be healthier. And so seeing what's wrong and refusing to accept what's wrong is the way it is. Just believing that there's a solution for every problem, there's a solution. I think that attitude has moved me forward in my career more than anything.
Right. I got a weird question for you. I've been looking at a lot of people have been talking about psilocybin acid for recovery. There's apparently, maybe you could help me out with this. I'm glad you're on. So someone said mushroom. Let's say mushroom psilocybin acid, and
Psilocybin,
there's
yeah.
a psilocybin can help with addictions. Is there some kind of natural, because mushrooms are natural way to help out with certain ailments?
Well, so when we're talking about the brain, I say that the brain is really the final frontier. Forget what William Shatner told you years ago, right? It's so diverse, expansive, and individual. And so we're seeing with the microdosing of hallucinogenics, which is what the psilocybin, the ketamine, some of the other things are working toward, even the MDA stuff. So what we see is that totally unpredictable responses. Right? In other
So
words,
you don't see any studies that show predictable responses on them.
oh, I do in some, but much like with psychotropic medication, one person takes this medication and it works. The Prozac trials are famous or infamous, if you will, because the placebo performed just as well overall. But for the people that it
That's
works for,
mindset. That's mindset, though.
yeah,
If you
well, no,
believe it's going to happen,
well,
it's going to
that's
happen.
true, but
And you can
but
change your physiology, if I'm not mistaken.
you can absolutely, but
That's crazy.
for the people that it really works for, it really works.
Right.
In other words, everybody is so individualized. And so then they came out with the pharmacogenetics, where you can test your genetics to see which medications you will metabolize best. But that still doesn't tell you which will work best for you. It tells you that you'll metabolize it and get maximum benefit from it if your brain will benefit from it. But it doesn't tell you if your brain will benefit from it.
So
So
you're talking about the body versus, well, here's the kicker. I've been asking. I'm so glad you're on this one. So I have a bunch of questions I'm not going to ask.
that's
The
another
difference
episode.
between the difference between the brain and the mind.
Yeah. So the brain, the body, the soul, the mind, so we call it three parts, the
Right, right,
three-legged
right,
stool. And it's interlinked. I don't know that you can fully separate. So you're right. There's your thinking, and then there's the organ of the mind, right?
right,
So
right,
so
right. The
if
brain and the mind, right?
it's a combination of biology, genetics, and epigenetics and environment. It really is a mix of all that. So that's why the field in the study of genetics, when we look at somebody, I can run your genetics and tell you what you're predisposed toward, mental health wise, substance use wise, some physical health issues. It
Really,
doesn't,
you can tell that, like,
yeah.
because I notice people. I call it. I have a friend of mine. I have a bunch of friends that are have the ability to get addicted to things.
Hmm.
I just don't have that ability. I don't know how to describe it, but you know, I I say it, I put my mind. Well, let me say this the right way. It is by my mind that I put my will in motion, and other people they just fall into this trap of addictions.
And they may have that, and I almost would guarantee they do have that predisposition. So here's what it is. Is I can run your genetics and tell you what neurochemicals, what neurotransmitters you may have deficits in, either the production, transportation, or reception of. But either way, the whole system isn't working at peak performance. The most common
Gotcha.
one that we talk about is dopamine, which is why I mentioned hypodopaminergia, which is a lack of dopamine. And so what that is, that's your satiation transmitter. And so what happens is if you don't have enough of that, either enough receptors, enough transportation, or enough production. Your brain knows that, and it says, we need more of this. And then it finds something that does it artificially. So let's say, so peak release is about 100 dBA. So
Okay.
100 is net. So you have your peak experience, whatever floats your boat, makes you most happy. If you're a fishing guy and you catch that big marlin, you hit 100, man, that's awesome. We're designed to create that. So when we drink water, our dopamine goes up a little because that's a survival mechanism. When we eat food, we get a little dopamine hit because that's a survival mechanism.
And then some people that that is increased and they become, addicted to food.
Well, because there's a deficit, they seek more, they get a little hit, and their brain goes, we need more of that. Right. So it
And
may
so they
never
go to the
get to
food to get more of
100.
it. Ah,
Right. It may never get to peak because it's got a deficit. So
right.
someone with hypodopaminergia will maybe only get to 30. And the brain goes, wait a minute, we wanted to be at 100. So procreation, sex, the species has to continue. So sex is designed to give you a dopamine hit so that the species will continue to exist. But some people will get a higher level than others. So let's say comedy, for instance, or music are both great dopamine producers. So let's say you and I go to a comedy movie together, and I'm
Mhm.
hypodopaminergic and you're not. And we come out of there, we both laughed, we both enjoyed it. And as we're walking out, you're still like glowing in it. You're thinking, man, that was awesome. I would go see that again right now.
Because the dopamine's hitting. For
Right.
me, it's
And
hitting,
I've already
right?
come down because I never reached the
Because by
height
the
that you
time you
did.
walk out,
So
right?
I'm
You
going, yeah, that
enjoyed
was
it?
great. You're
Oh
like,
yeah,
and I'm
okay.
like, yeah, that was awesome. I don't have the same level of enthusiasm for it because my dopamine never reached the same level. But then I get exposed to something. Let's say they take that psilocybin. Let's say they snort some cocaine. Whatever it is, it raises that level artificially. And what it does, so cocaine, for instance, opiates will take you 900, 1,000. Remember, I said net release normal is 100.
Right,
So
100.
crack and meth will take you to 1,200. 12 times
Ah,
12 times the normal rate, much less
1,200.
yeah,
Wow.
much less the rate for someone with hypodopaminergia. So this person's used to 30 and now their brain shoots up to 1,200. Well, there's problems with that multifold. First of all, your brain is very protective and very well designed. So it starts shutting down receptors because too much dopamine is really bad for you. That's where schizophrenia comes in. So that's why you
Really?
see, yeah, sure, that's why you see people on a meth high, hitting that high hit with what they call drug-induced they're mimicking schizophrenia. It's a drug-induced psychosis, and it looks just like schizophrenia because neurochemically it is. But when the chemicals leave the body, the brain will settle back down and the psychosis will go away, unless you manage to do permanent damage, which, few, but some do. And so, or if you're predisposed to schizophrenia, it could kind of be the tipping point. And that gets back to what we talked about, the predispositions. So if you have a predisposition, you have a lack of dopamine, you're more likely to become addicted to something because your brain recognizes it needs it. So unfortunately, that's why you see it. That's a catecholamine is the category of dopamine. So catecholamines are the issue with ADD, ADHD. A shortage of catecholamines are related to attention deficit. So what happens is some of these kids get
Oh,
put on a
well,
stimulant, so they already have a dopamine shortage, and they get put on a stimulant which raises their level, so they're already predisposed to addictions, and then they're put on an addictive substance to resolve the other issue, which is the ADD, ADHD, and now you've created a perfect storm in this brain where this person is likely to abuse their medication.
so wow, this is, yeah, I wish I didn't have any more interviews for the rest of the day. So I consider I haven't been diagnosed, but I consider myself ADHD my entire life. So hyperactive disorder. And the way I describe it, everybody else is like, if you work for certain companies, you can get huge benefits from it, right? You get more money, you get I don't know what the benefits are, but in my life, it's been a superpower.
Yeah, a
And
lot of
people,
CEOs are ADD. Yeah,
so
they're they're not happy unless they got six things going at once.
right, and that's what I call it. I say it like, I have tabs open on a computer.
Yeah,
I can leave all those open and then file from one to the other. Like, I build houses and do multifamily, do flips. And you gotta, each project, each contractor, you gotta go from file to file to file to file to file to file to file, file, file. And I love it. And I've learned that if you have ADHD, you have a 300% chance of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you also, yeah, and it just works great for that. And the things that I'd like to do, like hyper, uh, I've I got a martial arts. My kid got me into it. Now I'm a fifth degree black belt, and I just got done competing at the U.S. Open, and those are some of the first place trophies I've got. I've got 12 first place trophies. Hyperactive, just being on something. I don't understand. I don't understand why people call this a disorder.
Well, so there's different degrees of it and different manifestations
Obviously,
of it,
right?
if you will. And sometimes you want to regulate it, sometimes you don't. And
Right.
for some people it is problematic, and for others it is, as you say, a superpower.
It's
Uh,
superpower.
yeah, and and there's ways to manage that even and still use it as a superpower, right? Because if it becomes so, you had mentioned earlier that you don't have an addictive personality. Well, the truth is you do, but for healthy addictions. So my first addiction was running because it was a big dopamine
Nice.
producer, right?
Okay,
So
yeah, I
I was a
gotcha.
long distance runner and I loved to run from a young age. I'm running miles and miles and miles every day.
Nice.
And so that's a healthy access. So the problem is where your brain gets first fed. So obviously, physical exercise is good for you. That movement is good for you. It feeds your brain what it needs, and that's sufficient for your brain. For other people, it's not, or the first exposure. So here's what happens. Our brain finds a pathway. Imagine there's this open field of tall grass you can't see through. And you come out of the woods and there's this open field. Where am I going to go? I can't see what's in front of me. And you just pick a path. And next time you come to that open field, there's a path. Where are you going to go? You're going to follow the path. So your brain found exercise. What if before it found exercise, it had been introduced to stimulants, which worked well for ADD, ADHD? That would be the path it would choose. Now, that may take you down a bad path or not, depending on the individual.
Well, so what are the odds of that? Because I got to thank my mom because when I was little, they tested me, and I think every boy has ADHD. I don't know why they sit you in a class and tell you to sit down and shut up when you're
Yeah.
5. That's insane to a 5-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Insane. And I was just worse than most. So I couldn't sit to save my life at 5 years old. That just means I had a bunch of energy. And my mom, they gave ADHD medication to my mom. My mom gave it to me for a little while, and then she tried it, and she was like buzzed. So apparently, for the kid versus the adult, it's an opposite reaction. Is that correct?
Well, it's for the brain. So if her brain didn't need it, there was no deficit.
Okay,
She's
it
adding
wasn't for her.
stimulant.
It
Yeah.
wasn't.
So here's what happens when you have a catecholamine deficiency, an ADD, ADHD situation, and you're fed an amphetamine. It basically is what it is. It's a
It is.
stimulant. They're not. It has almost the opposite effect it will have on other people, right? So
That's exactly
it
what happened.
calms you down where it speeds them up. And you'll see this when I talk to people about how to treat their brain, and we use holistic methods. All your neurotransmitters are made from amino acids. Every neurotransmitter in your brain comes from some amino acid that you bring into your body. It gets translated through the blood-brain barrier into that neurotransmitter and gets used in the system there. And so the way that is translated and absorbed and processed depends on the individual, and it's all over the board. But again, that's where genetics can help us determine what's going to work best for you and what you're more predisposed to. So, so for her, she didn't have the deficit. She's wired,
Nope.
right?
Right. And she stopped giving it to me. She's like,
Well,
this
good for
isn't good for
you.
my kid.
Yeah,
That's what I was saying. I got to thank my mom, right?
yeah. And there are natural ways to do that, even for kids. So there, again, we find what are the amino acids that you're missing. So with catecholamines, you're talking about tyrosine, so L-tyrosine, L-phenylalanine. These are the amino acids that you use to boost your catecholamines in your brain, and so that'll increase, alertness, energy, mental focus, drive, enthusiasm, all these things that it'll help your brain do more of if you have a deficit. Now, if you don't have a deficit and you take these things, first of all, they're amino acids, so typically your brain won't use what it doesn't need to some degree. You can overdo even amino acids. We listen. You can overdose on water if you really want to.
We drown. Right. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Um,
And they said it's a minor amount of water, like a half a cup would kill you.
well, to drown in, but there's actually a study done. There was a lady in South America. This is decades ago, and her mother had died of cancer, and they told her because she never drank water, and so she became obsessed, obsessive compulsive about drinking water. She drank so much water that her body just shut down, and she died.
Really?
She died from an overdose of water. So obviously that's an extreme case, and her OCD fed into that, and it was problematic. I mean, so basically all she did was water, and just her system could only handle so much. So I just say that to say you can overdo even good things.
Right.
Exercise is a good example, right? There's a point at which no pain, no gain is a lie, and you've hurt yourself, right? You've seen people who are body dysmorphic and think that they're fat.
Yeah, yeah. There's this one weightlifter. He looked like a superhero. He was just solid muscle, and then he passed away at under 40. And right before he passed, he said, "And this guy, no fat, solid muscle. Obviously, steroids. Steroid
Yeah.
use was obvious with him, but he said something that kind of blew my mind. Your heart doesn't know the difference between 300 pounds of fat or 300 pounds of muscle, and he had a heart problem."
Mm.
And he passed from that.
Well,
And he looked like a
and fat
superhero.
serves a purpose in our body and our brain, right? Like people, even cholesterol. Our brain needs cholesterol. Our brain needs our brain is fat and wet, right? And
So wait a minute. Can I say this statement and you see if it's correct? And I'm gonna get a ton of flack from my weightlifter friends. If you have zero body fat, that makes you dumber.
no, no, but I will say that being a fathead is not always a bad thing, right?
All right, good. I love that. So, how do I love what you do is first you analyze the I call it pupil because I'm a martial artist, but analyze your client and then you find out what they need, and then that helps them manage their ADHD, all their disorders.
Well, that's true all the way across the board. And it's not always done just necessarily in looking at genetics. I mean, but the whole process, and this is just standard in the industry, when somebody comes in for treatment, is you do a complete biopsychosocial, you do a physical health exam, you really check out the individual before we get started. So now we've done an extensive assessment of this individual to determine what their needs are, because again, the brain is so dynamic in so many ways. The individual is dynamic in so many ways. And so even if I know your genetics and I can say you are predisposed to this, doesn't mean that you have that, right? And remember they say 30 to 70%, depending on the particular gene site we're looking at and issue we're addressing. So let's even that out and call it 50%. What's the other 50%? It's the epigenetics. It's the experience in life. So there was a study done with a Lakota tribe out west, small community, and basically all part of the same gene pool, right? 98% were alcoholic. Well, why weren't the other 2% if they all share the same basic gene pool? Well, the other 2% never took the first drink. So the lack of exposure never brought them into that world, right? And so you'll see that a lot. You'll see the child of an alcoholic say, "I'm never going to drink because I saw what it did to my parents," right? And so they changed course.
Well, I hear certain experiences in my life. I know exactly what you're talking about. My whole family smoked. My dad smoked cigars. Everybody else smoked cigarettes. And in my house, growing up back in the 70s and the 80s, they'd smoke in the house in front of blow smoke in my face when I was a kid. And then I had a very unique experience recently. This is like 2 days ago, so I'm kind of glad you're here. When I was young, I tried a cigarette. And then I coughed and I threw it on the ground. And I said, "This is not for me," because it hurt. It wasn't even pleasurable, right?
Yeah.
And then now 50 years later, a couple of days ago, I was driving with my friend. And he had one of those little, I don't even know what you call it, nicotine pouches.
Yeah, it's vape pen. Yeah.
No, pouch. You ever see the pouches?
Oh, okay, the pouch. Yeah.
Zen or something like that. I forgot what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I put that in my mouth for 3 minutes, and I was higher than a kite.
Sure.
The first time I've had nicotine in my body ever, and I threw it out the window, and I was like, I was literally paused. I could not believe it from a little nicotine patch.
Yeah, well, nicotine is a stimulant, so
I know that now.
Yeah, well, and this is so a lot of people so I'm certified in tobacco cessation as well. So one of the things they'll say to me when they're trying to quit smoking is, it relaxes me. And they're not lying, but here's, so how is it a stimulant relaxes? Twofold. One is, okay, first, are they catecholamine deficient? And the stimulant is feeding that ADD, and so they are calming. Or two, if you ever done breathing exercises, you ever see anti-anxiety exercises in breathing, right? What does it look like? Big draw in, you hold it for a little bit, and you exhale. What does smoking look like? Big draw in, you hold it for a little bit, and you exhale. Smokers don't realize they are performing anti-anxiety breathing exercises all day long. And so what happens is their body
That is crazy.
yeah, and then they stop, and now they've forgotten how to breathe without the cigarette.
Normally.
Yeah. And
Well,
so,
we do that. We do that in martial arts. The first thing we do is move Young's, meditate, and we breathe in, let it, and we try it. And here, the mindset of that is, and this is it's worked out fantastically. Every day before a class, you breathe. We do Mook Young. It's called meditation. Just breathe in, let it out. Breathe in, let it out. Empty the day, and then you learn something for the next hour, hour and a half, and then you redo that meditation. You breathe in and let it out. Breathe in and let it out. And that solidifies that hour of learning for us.
mhm.
And that's a tradition that's been passed down for thousands of years.
And if you have poor oxygen flow, your brain is not optimal anyway, right? So
There you go, that too. So there's multiple.
yeah.
Listen, this has been a great interview. I could do this for a lot longer. What is one thing you want people to know when they deal with addictions or whatever your recovery place does?
I think that two things really, that there's help,
Too.
and that it's not what most people, if you're not experiencing it, it's not what you think it is. It's like, why don't you just quit? Why are you doing that? Like the brain has literally been hijacked. And so understanding what this person is, so you have the limbic system is the pleasure reward center in your brain, and it's sending signals to the prefrontal lobe, which is where logic, reason, planning, uh, everything that you think of the way people are acting as far as decision making is happening up here. The problem is this portion has been hijacked by the other system that's now saying you need to do this to survive. It literally sends, remember I said that, that dopamine hit is a survival thing that God designed us with. It's our brain is designed. If you don't get the dopamine to reinforce that behavior, you won't keep doing it. Well, now this system has been hijacked by the drug, and it's telling you need to do this to survive, and you don't even understand it yourself. And it'll think, oh, it's just a matter of willpower. Willpower has nothing to do with it. Don't get me wrong. Willpower is good in the recovery process because it can make you determined to do certain things, but the brain has been hijacked. So when you're looking at a loved one and you're thinking, if they really loved me, they would just stop. That's not true. It's not how it works. It's
Not how we're wired.
yeah. Unfortunately, there is an actual brain mechanism going on here that they no longer have control of. That's really the definition of addiction. Trust me, no one wakes up and says, "Gee, I think I'd like to grow up and be an addict. I think I'd like to be
No.
addicted to drugs or alcohol and throw my
No.
life away." Sounds like a great idea, but once it grabs in that system, it really is out of their control, and there needs to be a diversion, something to get them from there to the next stage where they can get what we call neuroplasticity, that healing of the brain process to begin that recovery.
Is there any medication that helps with that neuroplasticity?
Well, the amino acids are a great tool. There are some medications that can help balance the brain so it starts feeding it the right neurotransmitters to sort of fill the gaps. That's so individualized. I wouldn't name a medication that I would say.
Gotcha. Each person's different.
Yeah.
Now, let's get back to that one thing that I kind of probably threw you off because I'm so excited about this podcast. The difference between the brain and the mind. So the brain is the physical aspect of what it moves the body. And now the mind is what, and this is my idiocracy understanding of it. The brain is the biological unit that runs the body. The mind controls the brain. And what are the differences? And they
control each other. Right.
They control each other. Right. Yeah. There you
go. And we're into semantics, but the brain is the organ. Right. And so just like People say, I want to talk to you from my heart. Well, your heart is an organ. You're not talking from your heart. But that's old as time. I mean, back in biblical, in the Old Testament, they talk about speaking from your gut. So
Well,
with,
here's the part that really blows my mind. I think you're a believer too. Um, Jesus came for the hearts of men,
yeah,
not the brains. That's what
yeah,
that really baked my noodle.
yeah. Right. So back to your question. Yes, I agree with you. But back to your question about the brain
In the
versus
mind.
the mind. So our thinking processes. So the mind is affected by the brain, and the brain is affected by the mind. You've already said, look, when I was younger and I used to run cross country, I could control my heart rate, through relaxation, and I would focus, and I could literally change my pulse just by thinking about it, no problem, right?
Hmm.
So, and that affects your brain. So you can certainly, your brain, your neurochemical processes are affected by what you think and what you focus on. Like I said, comedy, music, these things are great dopamine producers. So what you do affects the neurochemical processes of that organ. The neurochemical processes of that organ affect what you do and think. So
Hmm.
it's an interplay between the two. You can't really separate them. They both affect one another. Um, so trying to, I understand separating the
The
description.
mind from the brain.
Yeah, we're not really going to ever separate them, right? Because,
Well, in my belief, and I could be 100% wrong, is when we leave this world, that's when we separate the brain from the mind.
wait, now you're
Because
talking about your soul, right?
okay, soul, there you go.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah. So,
yeah.
so is my mind my soul? So, if you want to go back to speaking in biblical terms, when we talk about the renewed man, and Romans 12:2, or 2 Corinthians 5:17, where we're a new creation in Christ, old things have passed away, all things are new. That's talking about
Hmm.
your inner being. But yet, Paul also talks about, then why do I do what I don't want to do? So there's these two parts to it. That's when those get separated,
I
right?
call the soul and brain, the
Right.
soul and mind, and then the brain. The
Yeah.
brain looks for the dopamine hit, and the soul and why do we? Yeah. Paul says that yeah, exactly. Why do I? And I say
Why
this
do
on
I
a
do what I
daily
don't want to
basis.
do
Why
and
do I
do?
keep doing the stupid things? Why do I keep doing the stupid things? Help me with that one, Lyle.
Well, I think Paul answered it, right? There's this old sin nature we carry around with us. You'll know. So it's much like I said with the field, right? You come to this open field, there's a worn path. This is the path I know. This is what my body tells me I need to do because I've done. Even if on the other side of it, I fall off a cliff, I get back up, I go through the woods again, and I get there. It's familiar. It's what I know. It's what my body and brain have become accustomed to and expect. And here's the other thing. Just like every substance that you can abuse, every drug you can abuse, there's a natural version of it, or you would have no receptors in your brain for it to work on. So you have these mu opioid receptors, which are meant to receive these natural neurochemicals that we produce that help us deal with pain management and stuff. And then we
Really?
have these synthetic opioids, which are named
Right.
after the receptor site, not the other way around, right? So
Okay.
they fit there and they hit there because it exists already. There's a natural version of it in your body that this artificial thing is mimicking, right? And the same thing is true in the world. There's a version that we are designed for. So procreation and sex, God says, go forth and procreate, make more of you, right? That's great, but it's to be done in a certain context to remain healthy. When done outside of that context, it's not always as healthy, right? So it's the same thing. Our brains were designed for certain things. Dopamine was designed to keep us alive so that we would eat and feel satiated. We would drink water and feel that that's a good thing, and we would drink more water. We would procreate and keep the species alive. We're designed for that. When you put the artificial ones, the non-God designed ones, if you will, into the system, we muck up what was intended.
Yes, dude, I'm glad someone like you said that. I've said this 1,000 times, and 1,000 times. Anything God made is good. Anything we made is probably bad. And
Right.
we're trying to do good, and that's the hilarious part of the entire situation. And I've had many discussions with some lawmakers, and I keep trying to reiterate that I think and help me explain this. Mushrooms and marijuana are natural. They're natural substances, right? So they're not as bad as alcohol, drugs. You look at every other drug.
That's not even the marker because, see, look, arsenic's natural.
That's a point.
right? Opiates are natural. Opium comes from the poppy plant.
Yeah, but okay, fine. You want to go that route? I've studied on how they make cocaine, and I don't know too much about anything, but I just happened to watch one, and one of the ingredients was literally battery acid. They had battery acid.
Well,
They're pouring it on
nowadays,
the
yeah,
now.
it used to be ether based and stuff, but
Okay,
nowadays, yeah,
fine, but
now,
we're still not going down the right line. As soon as we start doing it, that's when it starts to get messed up.
yeah.
In
Well,
Michigan, marijuana is legal now, and I don't think it's as damaging as alcohol. How many people die from alcohol a
well,
year? How many people die from weed a year?
you're right. So alcohol is natural, but it will occur naturally. But here's the thing with marijuana today, THC. It's not the marijuana of my youth, right? Now
Well, yeah,
the rate of emergency room admissions for THC induced psychosis are
really through the
astronomical
roof.
right now. Yeah, crazy because it's so potent, and then they've got it in gummy form, and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these others. They got it in vape pens, and so now, and then we've got the Delta 8s and 9. You get these other variations of it, but one joint, whereas in my day, you go
Our day,
and you go to
we're the
work.
same. We're probably the same age.
Yeah. But now, one bowl, one hit, and you can
Yeah,
get enough THC out of some of these to really throw you over. And again, not every brain's the same. Moderation is hard to measure when things are so intense and so condensed, if you will. So, is it good? Is it bad? Here's what I would ask
better.
everybody.
How's it better? Is weed and mushrooms better than alcohol?
I'm less concerned. More people die annually from alcohol-related issues than marijuana by
Anything
far.
else?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah. There's no deaths in marijuana if I'm not mistaken. But I didn't know about this.
well, when you
The
consider
THC psychosis.
alcohol-related death is includes car accidents, and so I can't say there's no deaths from THC.
Gotcha.
It's kind of hard to. Usually, when someone has something in their system, they have multiple things in their system, so it's kind of hard to say. But all that said, is it good, particularly for young minds? And I would say for young minds, the answer is no. We've seen the
Yes.
long-term effects, and this is the other thing it's not taken. It's sold in Florida. Medical marijuana exists,
Mhm.
but do you know any other medicine that the prescription doesn't have a dosing? How do you dose something that's not measured, right? You don't know how many you don't know how much THC you're actually getting.
That's true too.
It, it- so
But
so if I
but
if
is
I
it
get a
but
prescription,
damaging to the damage to the body and mind? Is
there's
alcohol? Is it
downsides to it. Oh, but well, alcohol does more body damage, right? So
mind?
to the mind, it depends on the person. And it depends on how the quantity. How much alcohol are you drinking? Some people have a glass of red wine. This no amount of alcohol is great for you. There's studies put out that red wine is good for you. It's not you could drink grape juice and get the same benefit. It's not take the alcohol out and
Right.
you're better off. Alcohol does brain damage. It slows your senses and your perceptions, and it does negative effects with one drink. So the value is it. So why do you drink? You get drink to get drunk. Why do you smoke pot? You smoke for the effect.
The high.
So my question to most people is, what is it that you're not okay with that you need to change? Let's look at that. Before you use a substance, let's figure out why you're not okay without it. What is it doing for? It's doing something for you, or you wouldn't do it. And my
The
question would
dopamine
be,
hit, right?
what is it doing for you? What wasn't there before? And what other ways can we get there? Because if there's potential for negative, let's see if we can meet the same issue without that potential.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying that I'm anti much of anything, right? But I'm
Hmm.
saying that I question why we do it.
Oh,
Why,
yeah, yeah. I question everything.
yeah, why do we
People
need to
people don't
feel
like me
different?
because I question everything. We
Yeah.
do we do. I do a lot of multifamily. We buy multifamily, and we show people how to invest in multifamily. And I question everything. The people that are they're like, hey, what is the, what is a unit count? What is this? How many units? What kind of 1, 2, 3 bedrooms? Where is it at? What's the area like? Is there growth in the area? Is there stagnation in the area? They just get sick of all my questions, but I need those questions answered to bring other people into what we do. And yeah, you got it. Everything, challenge everything.
And when it comes to things that change your mind and alter your neurochemical processes, my question, and again, so I used to hire psychiatrists for the practice, and I would ask them, so what is, in this scenario, what is your go-to? And they would tell me, oh, I use this medication. I go, okay, what is the neuromechanism? And what are the side effects? And you'd be surprised how often they can't answer either one of those questions. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you're treating the mind, and here's the thing is, neither can most consumers who are out there buying their marijuana, drinking their drink. What is the neuromechanism? What is it doing to your brain? And what are the side effects? And alcohol destroys every organ in your body, including your skin.
It's poison. I'm not mistaken, it's poison.
It really is.
And I went to that one because I know meth is bad for you. I know heroin's bad for you. I know cocaine's bad for you. I don't know of any other drugs. I've heard of those. And I know for a fact, I have a friend of mine right now that's literally on death's door because of alcohol.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the biggest number. It has the highest numbers of damage because it's just basically poison. The feeling you get is poisoning yourself.
It's negative on your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas,
your eyes, your brain,
your stomach. You name it, you name an organ, and it's bad for it. Yeah. So THC, here's the thing with THC, what you're getting, most of the benefit other than the high are from the other cannabinoids, right? It's so CBD, THC free medical grade, like pharmaceutical grade CBD will probably get you most of those benefits other than the high.
Right.
So then my question is, if you need the high,
right.
And let's talk about that.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Hey, listen, Lyle, I could talk to you for another episode, which we're probably going to do. I'm going to have to segment more time away for this discussion. It was fantastic. I need you to do me a huge favor. And if anybody needs to know about this stuff and get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you?
The easiest way is really just I'm very accessible. You can call my cell phone. And it's 77.
I would venture to guess that you might not want to do that, but
okay,
I'll let you do
it. Email works too, but
email works better. Okay.
Okay. But my email is my name, Lyle, Lyle, Fried, Fried, at beachhousecenter.com. And so you can reach me at work there. There's a lot of filters on that, so you can use the same thing, my name at Gmail. That works as well. Either one of those will get you to me. If you get flagged and get thrown into that little Microsoft quarantine at work, I may not see you. So just
jail.
Yeah, LYLE, FRIED, like fried, but it's Fried at Gmail. That's the easiest way.
Sounds good. Hey, listen, thanks a lot for being on the show, and for all you viewers, we're gonna have to let Lyle go because he's we'll probably have him back on as a guest again because this is way too interesting of a podcast. Please follow and share on all the social medias, and I appreciate y'all for being here. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lyle.
You got it.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.